remember they're changing my voice. In this video, we'll go over the last couple points on this page. We'll go over the cut up technique and some more, and we'll talk about Burroughs, who went to Harvard University. He was very influential in popular culture, right? And um, that he was turned down by the Office of Strategic Services in the Navy. He wanted to be an intelligence agency guy, and logic alone would tell you that he ended up collaborating with them anyway, right? That was his lifelong dream. It was very influential. The intelligence apparatus was collaborating with the Hollywood crowd and them, the filmmakers and so on and so forth. So it's safe to say that, this stuff isn't just Hollywood. This is all throughout culture, right? Popular culture, literature, right? The things that influence things. Think about H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe. This stuff is very much the core of all Western cultures, of the occult, the hidden, the behind the scenes, the FBI, the politicians, the rich, the corporations, closed meetings, what have you. Okay, so now we have, all right. So again, we were going over, here are several examples that I'm sure that everyone can agree on, okay? Even if everyone is gaslighting you and playing stupid, and the overwhelming proof shows that the police have come to rape and kill you, then you are right to kill them if you can. Because if they've come to rape and kill you, and you're sure about that, you're not some crazy person, but the evidence is solid, you have a solid methodology, you reviewed it, you've carefully considered the facts, and you know that they're going to come to rape and kill you, then you're right to kill them if you can. So I'm sure we can all agree on that. Okay? Now, bear with me. You'll be refreshed about why I brought this up after we go through a few more points. Okay. B, if the government has technology that can hijack the brain, such as the technology the military is using, and they are hijacking your brain over time, you are right to resist them in any logical manner, and yes, that can include blowing them up. And again, it was mainstream publications like Popular Science and military magazines that made it clear that mind control is real, that the military requested a lot of funds for mind weapons and so on and so forth. They published this information themselves, okay? So you are right to resist them in any logical manner, and yes, that can include blowing them up. The fact that people act like some kind of pansy with no sense that tries to take you to the psych ward for highlighting this irrefutable fact just makes it more obvious that it is true. Again, I'm not telling anyone to blow people up. I have no plan to, blow people up, okay? But these are the facts here. The facts is this is a serious issue. These issues are serious, okay? And gaslighting is very, very sick and evil. And, if they're doing what they're doing to me, to you, it's your right to use deadly force and fight to the death. There's no way around it. It's just not my plan because I'm the top martial artist ever, and I have a very specific and morally precise plan. Okay, so I have no plan to use violence or anything. But the logic will tell you that if you use violence, you'll be right. Because people are fuming you and poisoning you and causing you cognitive damage to your brain. Okay, you're right to use deadly force regardless of what the law says. I mean, it goes without saying. All right. If people are here in the next point, if people are poisoning you covertly and denying your freedoms, you are right to resist them. And like in many countries in the world, this may very well lead to violence. America has been caught many times supporting violent movements that are in opposition to the state, such as to the state that they're in, right, to Syria, what have you, such as the Al-Nusra Front. They also used the Taliban's enemies to attack a state in which they argued was denying its citizens their rights. So you see in 1776, American Revolutionary War. You see in foreign countries where America funds, Contra-like movements. It funds, the rebels and various factions, even terrorist groups, because they argue that it's in their best interest or they've gone against their citizens' rights. So they can't then turn around and say, hey, if we violate your rights into next week, that you're wrong for for picking up arms against us. I mean, it's backwards. Okay, you can't have it both ways. Okay. D, an occult cut-up is a widely recognized valid idea that many occultists, many researchers, and many people from various philosophies and faiths are aware of. Also, that the terms food, feed, slaughter, fume, position, together, heal, and meal are all obvious applications in occult cut-ups. Again, I went over this in part one, right? Food, foe do, your enemy do. They're saying, hey, sleep with your enemy. It's a bunch of colonists, right? Settlers and set, right? Colonists and Colin Cancer, so on and so forth. There's all kinds of connections there, but they're saying faux do. They're saying do it their white Jew LGBT way, right? You know, say this guy, right? For example, a bunch of people look like this guy. It doesn't say his religion here, I don't think, but oh yeah, it's chaos magic, but he's probably of Jewish descent, white Jewish descent, and an LGBT ally, as he was very much in the, you know, he collaborated on projects with numerous performers and musicians and made many appearances in films. Okay, so anyway, so it's, you know, so faux do feed, right? Feed D, right? And it goes back to the phallic symbol. The gun is a phallic symbol. The spear, the obelisks, you know, are phallic symbols. Symbols is basically a penis symbol. And this is not just something I just made up or it's just written somewhere randomly. There's plenty of literature on it. You should look it up. Okay. Laughters, the word laughters, right? The word slaughter is laughter scrambled. Why on earth would that be, right? Unless the people who made it and the culture are sick and they've infected all these cultures with their sickness. Fume, right? F you me and me F you. They're saying, hey, we're fuming you until you have sex with us our way. So they're trying to make me gay. That's part of why they're changing my shape, changing my voice, what have you. The word position is poisonous, scrambled, and it's also what position you have sex in. These people basically are erotic desire. Eros is the pagan deity of love in Greco-Roman mythology. Eros, it is Roman counterpart, I believe it is a Cupid. Okay, Cupid, stupid Cupid. Okay, and so they're like, hey, do it our way, have sex our way. It's an extreme violation of human rights. There's no words for it. Okay, so also together is to get her. Heal is hele, and meal is mele, respectively. So they're saying you can't heal or have a meal unless you do it their way. And that's why we have over 600,000 people homeless. It's related to that. Now, a lot of these people did it their way, but they didn't kiss their ass and they weren't groomed by them. A huge part of their kind of oppressive system is mentors, right? And masters, right? Master masons, right? The master masons were slave masters quite often in American history, and they kept that kind of slave master mentality. We have no reason to believe that they didn't. If they don't think that I'm right about that, please put in the comments. Okay, but all the evidence shows us that it is. And for a good measure, I'll say, well, maybe on a fluke, it's not that, but give me a break here. Anyway, so when presented with the argument that these are occult cut-ups that we see playing out in society with countless occult organizations and cultures, right? There's gangs that use occult symbolism like the Aryan Brotherhood. There's rock and roll people. There's goths. There's emos. There's skaters into the occult. There's occultists, right? There's Satanists. There's on and on and on. There's celebrities, on and on and on, right? There's Kabbalah and the Talmud and so on and so forth, okay? Aleister Crowley fans and what have you, LGBT Satanists and occultists. Back in the day when I was on Facebook, I came across this satanic LGBT community. This is like maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago. There was so many people in that group. I forgot how many it was, like 100,000, a million. There was so many people in that group. I was like, wow. Okay, and of course, San Francisco is not far away. So we went over that. All right, society. So if when confronted with these truths, society responds with persecution instead of rallying to change it, one has a moral duty that transcends all other causes to be ready to die resisting the society and any other nations that have the same practice. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, these are rapists here. Okay, the word pirate is rape it scrambled. Prepare is pre-rape scrambled. Compare is come rape and mock rape scrambled, right? These are anagrams, right? With phonetics applied, sounds. That's how occult cut-ups work. And we'll get to that, okay? We'll get to that. Now, I went over the cut-up technique. Let me just read this briefly. Okay. The cut-up technique is an aleatory literary technique in which a written text is cut up and rearranged, right? Cut up, right? Striking somebody down. In the name of the Lord, I cut them down. That's even a play on words. They're doing it because they're pagans who reject the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. And, spirit and occult cut up, right? Cutting them down, cutting them up. Okay. So anyway, in which a written text is cut up and rearranged, often at random, to create a new text. The technique can also be applied to other media, film, photography, audio recordings, etc. It was pioneered by Brian Geeson and William S. Burroughs, this famous guy we're going to get into in a second if we have time. Burroughs, who practiced chaos magic and was inducted into the Illuminates of Thanateru in the early 1990s. All these people talking about there's no Illuminati. There's no it's Illuminat and the E, right? Illuminates. So there's one example of an Illuminati group that they've acknowledged. This peer-reviewed site, Wikipedia, with all these references here, they came to the conclusion, and it doesn't mean they're right, but the overwhelming amount of evidence at this point, when you consider why would they lie, screams that yes, this guy was in a group that's name is like the Illuminati. like Weishaupt's Illuminati, it's Illuminates of Thanatero, there you have evidence of a continuity of Illuminati thinking after the Enlightenment group by the Jesuit monk Weishaupt. Okay, so in the early 1990s, okay, in the early 1990s, okay, I was born in the early 1980s, okay, was adamant that the technique had a magical function, stating the cut-ups are not for artistic purposes. Burroughs used his cut-ups for political warfare, scientific research, personal therapy, magical divination, and conjuration. Political warfare, right? I said in 2013, I said it many times, I'm being persecuted for my social, spiritual, religious, what have you, political views in a way that's extremely illegal. The essential idea being that the cut-ups allowed the user to break down the barriers that surround consciousness. Okay, so he has all kinds of weird psychological theories in regards to it, and he's like a straw man in some ways, in that the cut-ups exist, right, together to get her. Pirate, rape it, right? So they're trying rape by deception, coercion, okay, sextortion, what have you. Okay. I would say that, so this is Burroughs stated, I would say that my most interesting experience with the earlier techniques was the realization that when you make cut-ups, you do not simply randomly just, you do not simply get, hold on a second, there's like some noise and shit, like someone's here. Okay, again, it says, when you make cut-ups, you do not simply get random juxtapositions of words, that they do mean something, and often that these meanings refer to some future event. So here's this guy from Harvard, alma mater, Harvard University, who's saying that these cut-ups are real, okay, and he wants to put his extra 2 cents in to say that sometimes it has to do with future events, and that has to do with the central design, right? The original design, the foundational design, if you will, of the people, their culture, their foundational culture, and their continuity of it. Okay, the kind of Roman culture, Neo-Roman culture, Latin-rooted words, so on and so forth, right? All roads lead to Rome, so to speak. And they decided to continue that, and that's why these cut-ups refer to future events. That's all that is. And of course, there's guys going way out of their way to try to connect things to it. That's part of what's happening with these mass shootings in the news, where they're referring, right, Gangstalking, Gangstalking, that's me, right, the top martial arts, right, the king of martial arts, the king of kings, David and Goliath, the ruinous offspring of David, the bright morning star, what have you. Okay? So it's referring to me, right? And trying to make it look like a Jew or something, so I cover up that real quick. You see the similarities with that depiction of Christ. And it's not just, oh, you look like him, everything else lines up too. So we see perhaps events are pre-written and pre-recorded, and when you cut word lines, the future leaks out, okay? So, of course, in a sense, he's referring to the design. In a sense, he's right to say it that way, but he puts it in a way that's like supernatural and confusing when it's really what they're getting at when they're a kind of secular occultist. They're not getting at some kind of supernatural, spiritual stuff, like maybe a Native American or African would get at. They're getting at kind of theater arts, kind of ritual madness, Dionysian, mystery, occult thinking. Okay. So I'm almost out of time, so let's just shoot through this here. Okay. Basically, this guy was born in 1914. He died in 97. Was an American writer and visual artist, widely considered a primary figure of the Beat generation and a major postmodern author who influenced popular culture and literature. Burroughs wrote 18 novels and novellas, 6 collections of short stories, and 4 collections of essays, and 5 books that have been published of his interviews and correspondences. He was initially briefly known by the pen name William Lee. He also collaborated on projects and recordings with numerous performers and musicians, made many appearances in films, and created and exhibited thousands of visual artworks, including his Shogun arts. Let me just kind of shoot through this here and get to the magical beliefs. Okay. So he's the grandson of an inventor, right? He's from a rich family. He studied anthropology, okay, and he applied to the military-industrial complex intelligence agencies. He's associated with the 1960 counterculture. Movie Junkie and Naked Lunch. He was a junkie at one point, did heroin, right? These are crazy guys who are very influential behind the scenes for whatever reason. Okay, so let's just go to the magical belief now. We'll go over that in the next video or something. In the magical universe, there are no coincidences and there are no accidents. Nothing happens unless someone wills it to happen. The dogma of science is that the will cannot... Well, I'm out of time, so we'll get to this next video.